Greetings, film freaks. We are the Podcorn Kernels. Join us as we discuss the hard and often indigestible truths that are at the center of the fluffy and delicious world of cinema. Season 2.
What's poppin', people? Welcome to the Podcorn Kernels podcast. My name is Adam, and joining me in your earholes is Harry. Say hello, Harry.
Back in 2007, I walked into a village in Tanzania with a can of tuna. I opened it in front of them and I slurped that fish shake loud and proud, and they started to utter the words, "Samaki too, Samaki too." It wasn't until I went to a village in Sri Lanka to eat a jar of gherkins did I learn what it meant. Fishman. They called me Fishman.
On today's episode, we will be talking about Society of the Snow. This is a 2023 film directed by J.A Bayona and stars Augustin Pardea, Enzo Vogrinzik and Francisco Romero. IMDb describes the synopsis as follows. The flight of a rugby team crashes on a glacier in the Andes. The few passengers who survive the crash find themselves in one of the world's toughest environments to survive. Here is an original song to support the synopsis.
No man hath greater love than this, that he'll lay down his life for his friends. No man hath greater love than this. Only when you've lost you know what you miss. Want the start when it comes the end. Only when you've lost you know what you miss. We were flying high in the clouds of hope. Now we survive and die in a canvas of snow. Do what we must so we can go home. Not what we were, now skin and bone. No man hath greater love than this, that he'll lay down his life for his friends. No man hath greater love than this. Only when you've lost you know what you miss. Want the start when it comes the end. Only when you've lost you know what you miss.
Let's start with some facts about the film. One of the survivors, Carlitos Paez, plays the role of his own father in the movie.
He's Paez as well, I believe, is John Malkovich's character in the 1993 Frank Marshall Alive.
Knowledge.
The one with the turtleneck and smoking with black behind him. I'm sure that's Paez.
That is some impressive knowledge.
Could be wrong. Might need to check that, but I'm quite sure it is.
I think that fact is fascinating to me because you're asking someone, even though he's not acting a lot in the film, you're asking someone to remember what must be undoubtedly the hardest period of their life.
Yep.
And I'm sure that the character, the actor that plays him within the film must have some questions. So by being in this film, it's going to unearth a lot of memories that you probably worked very hard to forget.
Well, as an actor, what a well of knowledge to pull from. If the real guy you're playing, you can access him, you can talk to him.
If you was the actor playing this real life guy, knowing what he's been through, knowing his story, you're portraying him on screen, would you be happy and open to asking him so many questions? Or would there be an air of, I've got to be respectful here, this guy's literally been through hell and back. Like,
No.
I don't want to overload him. I don't want to be like, oh, what did your mate taste like?
No, I think if he's on set, it's a given that he's accessible. Did you say, what did your mate taste like?
Yeah. Thought I'd bring the tone down immediately.
Well, that is the elephant in the room, I suppose.
It is, yeah.
Obviously, it's huge. But I think that, was it Nando Parada? He said that was 20% of the issue. We had water, we had the elements, we had avalanches, the food aspect. Like, everyone focuses on the food aspect. It was such a small part of all the other elements that caused it to be a miracle/tragedy.
It's exactly that. I think it's so fascinating to outsiders because none of us, well, you like to think none of us have munched on a fellow human. So that part is so alien, so fascinating because it's so other. Like I knew going into this film what that cannibalism happens. Like obviously they have to do whatever they can to survive. And it's worth saying early doors, the way they handle that within the film is very respectful. It's not glamorized or anything like that. But that is what is, whether it's right or not, most interesting because it's so alien. The thought of like, oh, how did you do it? Like you can't help but have those questions.
Well, I know the press sensationalized it.
Well, of course they would, yeah.
And put spins on it where, say, family members whose kids didn't come back, they started spinning stories about how they were murdered to be eaten and stuff, and the avalanche never happened, and they tried, and it was ridiculous.
Yeah,
they tried to put spins on it, and they thought it was a crime against religion, crime against humanity. But I think even the Catholic Church absolved them of any wrongdoing or sin.
Yeah,
and I think the people themselves, the survivors, they're all heavily Catholic. They cited the Eucharist, was that the blood and the body of Christ,
yeah.
And that's how they moved past it. Amazing that he's on set though, that Paez, the real guy, because that tells you a lot about the film in regards to its portrayal and realism. Because if survivors laud it, like I know Nando has seen it twice, and he said it's exceptional
Really?
retelling of the events.
That's incredible.
And Roberto Canessa, who's the second guy who walked out of the Andes with Nando, he said it's brilliant. He said, but it's still a light version of how horrific it was.
Of course, no filmmaker in the world could ever 100% accurate depict what those guys have gone through.
Yeah,
I only a film directed by the survivors themselves could do it justice wholeheartedly because it would be authentic. They've actually lived it. They would know beat by beat what happened, what this person did, how this person did it, all of that. Only they would know.
Yeah.
And I don't think any film by even the most established filmmaker or the most twisted filmmaker could ever properly portray the horrors and the nightmares that must have gone into just surviving that.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Society of the Snow is the official submission of Spain for the Best International Feature Film category of the 96th Academy Awards in 2024. Fully deserving. It deserves to be there, doesn't it?
100.
I know we're only in the fact segment of the podcast, but it's already been submitted, and I think it's completely the right call. And I, for one, would struggle to think that there could be a foreign film that is more impactful, more emotional, more substantial than this one.
And it's true.
That's it. It's exactly that. And it's not a biopic of glitz and glamour like a film that's out at the moment that's recently come out like Maestro. These are ordinary people doing extraordinary things, and that shit is fascinating.
Absolutely.
And do you think anything would top that? Do you see it winning that award?
I'd have to watch a lot more films that are going to be in that category to say it, but I already believe 100% that Numa Takati's, the character played by Enzo Vogrinzik, should be nominated for Best Actor.
Yeah,
absolutely. Because to have to portray on screen that sacrifice of your beliefs and religion to eat food, and it's amazing that his character, his story, the fact that he's your narrator in the film, and you follow him, but you also lose him in the film.
Yeah, that's a very unique thing.
As an audience, you lose someone, so you feel lost in the film. It's very strange. And I think the film itself should 100% be nominated for Best Foreign Film. And I do believe he should definitely get a nod in Best Actor.
Yeah. I do, like I say, I struggle to think of a better foreign film. If there is one, I'm excited to see it. Every year I follow the Academy Awards. I watch as many of the nominations as I can, but even seeing this one, I think it'd be very hard to pip.
Absolutely.
The true story told in this film was previously made into the movies Alive in 1993 and Survive in 1976, and has been the subject of several documentaries, including Stranded, I've Come From a Plane That Crashed on the Mountains, released in 2007, and I Am Alive, Surviving the Andes Plane Crash in 2010. I know you know a fair amount about this true story. I know you've read up on it. I know you've seen the films. Have you watched the documentaries as well?
I've watched a documentary where some professional mountain climbers try to recreate the journey that Parada and Canessa did.
Really?
Yeah.
How did they get on?
Well, they said to them it was ignorance that got you there. Because if you knew the journey you were about to take, you never would have left the fuselage.
Really?
Oh, I just gave myself goosebumps.
Yeah, that's dirt.
Yeah. I mean, this was a household film for me when I was younger.
Yeah.
Alive was fascinating. My whole family, it was just one of them films. Even though if you watch it today, there's some really bad acting in it.
I can imagine. Yeah.
Terrible effects.
Yeah.
It doesn't take away, though. You still watch it and you still are in awe of it because it's, you're getting a visual retelling of a horrific story that's known the world over. I think you could go to the deepest, darkest parts of Guinea and someone knows this story.
Yeah. It's well told, and it's a story worth telling as well. It shows what humankind can do in a state of struggle when it's fight or flight to survive. And like we mentioned, the whole cannibalism thing, it's a aspect of the story that has to be told because it's a large part of why they managed to live through it. But the horrors of that and the aftermath of that, I think the film is it's worth being told, and it's worth being told in the way this film does it. It's respectful, it's impactful, it's meaningful, it's profound, it's all those things. I think I've seen Alive. I remember vaguely watching it when I was younger. I think my dad showed it to me, and I don't remember an awful lot about it.
Ethan Hawke, that's what I remember. A young Ethan Hawke he played Nando. It's Ethan Hawke.
Yeah, you know what you're going to get.
Talented. He's consistent. But I was genuinely excited for this film like I was for All Quiet on the Western Front because finally the subject matter, the nation in which it concerns, are doing the film.
Exactly that, yeah.
You wouldn't want to watch an American cast or version of City of God. You want to watch it for that.
It's exactly that. That's how House of Gucci films are born. If you get an American cast doing an Italian story in an Italian film, it's not going to feel authentic.
No.
It's going to feel hammy as pig.
And a lot of these guys, it's their first time doing a feature film.
That's madness.
Which I think's amazing.
Yeah.
And I found it, not at one point was I like, he can't act. Whereas in Alive, you can be like, he can't act.
Yeah.
He can't act. But then again, that could be that language thing.
Yes.
To us, we're following the story. We don't understand the social cues or how they deliver lines because when we can't speak fluent Spanish.
Exactly that.
But I don't know. All I saw was really good acting from first time actors. It was pretty immense.
And I think it's a common thing when you're watching a film with an ensemble cast. There's so many actors on screen. It's law of averages. If you're watching 10, 20, 30, 40 people on screen, there's usually at least one or two, more likely a handful that are like, I wish you weren't in it. Oh, you're doing my fucking head in, whether it's the actor themselves or the character. In this, from as soon as that plane starts to wobble, you're rooting for absolutely every single one of them. They've all got their own personalities, their own characters in the film. They've all got their negatives, all got their positives, and every single one of them, it's wholly encapsulating. You're totally in there. You're totally there with them, and that's some special filmmaking in my eyes.
I'm not rooting for the co-pilot.
No,
fuck that guy.
What did he do to upset you?
Human error. It's all his fault.
Really?
Yeah.
See, I must have missed that, and I've watched it twice.
He didn't read his headwinds properly, and he didn't know where he was as a co-pilot. He thought he'd passed Curacao, which is in Chile, and he hadn't. So he turned into the Andes rather than into the valley that gets you around the Andes. He turned into them. It's all his error.
So that was co-pilot's fault for what he's in charge of navigation.
So the main pilot, who had something like 5,000 flying hours, was training the co-pilot. Co-pilots made the mistake. Oof. And that's why in the film the navigator during the pre-crash scene talks about, they're joking about how the hot winds from the Pacific mix with the cold air of the Andes and it has a suction motion. That's why the plane is trying to climb and its engines are going because it's trying to get over the mountain, and it was his fault. That's why when they find him pinned against the dashboard, he's saying, we passed Curacao, because obviously his electrons in his brain are flashing, he's dying essentially, and that's all he's saying. We passed Curacao, and he hadn't. They were like fucking 90 miles from there, 90 kilometers, 60 kilometers from Curacao, so well out. I know one thing they didn't put in the film though, but that co-pilot asked them to shoot him. They said, "Find my gun and kill me," and they wouldn't. They didn't do it. I don't know if that's the Catholic thing again.
Or is it this is your fault, we're going to let you suffer? Surely not.
No, I don't think so.
I turned that spicy when it didn't need to be, didn't I?
But so one thing I thought was a brilliant piece of detail. You might be right there, because if you notice when the I think it's this, I can't pronounce very well, the Strouch cousins,
Yes.
the boys,
The lads.
if you notice when they first butcher a body, it's a pilot. He's got the white shirt on.
I didn't clock that.
So they went for pilot first because obviously they're the most strange to them, the most most unknown entity to them.
Yeah, they are a stranger. They don't know who they're placing pond mouth. It's just a different person. Yeah.
Placed upon the mouth.
Well, it feels like there was a lot you liked about Society of the Snow. Give me them likes.
I have a fascination with air crash.
You do?
Like, I've read about this story for years, amongst loads of other plane crash stories, because they fascinate me because I'm terrified of flying.
Yeah.
Even though I've been a good globetrotter in my life, I've genuinely, every plane I get onto, I think I'm going to die.
Yeah.
And I kiss the door. And that's true. It's 100% true. And I genuinely will die in a plane crash. That's what's going to happen to me. So it's not, I'm not like a ghoul, but these stories fascinate me. It's like great white sharks. I'm terrified of them. I love watching stuff about them.
Well, it's better the devil you know, right? Like,
Yeah.
if you've learned a lot about plane crashes and survival techniques and what we'd have to do if that shit hit the fan, at least you would know how to deal with the worst case scenario. You've kind of absorbed and found out more. Would you kiss aeroplane doors when you get onto them?
I do. I'd rather get COVID and think that I've made my peace with
Yeah, but
being in a burning tube falling to the earth. This isn't even a like. I just wanted to go off the back of what you mentioned before.
okay.
But yeah, so first thing come to mind in watching the film. So obviously we're all waiting for the plane crash, and then after that you're all waiting for the cannibalism. And then
Of course you are, yeah.
obviously I knew about the avalanches as well through watching previous films and books and stuff. But my first like is Numa Takati, played by newcomer Enzo Vogrinzik. So in the film he's one of the last of the survivors to partake in cannibalism, and his eating scene made me well up.
Yeah.
He held on to this little piece of pale souche for all day pretty much, and they want him to eat also, because if they're all in it together, guilt doesn't really enter.
Yeah.
If one person holds out, they'll be like, that guy's stronger than me, he's better than me.
He's judging me. Like, I've eaten my mate,
Yeah.
but he's managed to keep going and he hasn't.
Yeah.
Like, you couldn't help but feel that sense of, oh fuck, look at him on his high horse.
I think that's why it was so strong, because he has to leave his faith and beliefs at the door to survive.
He's effectively been defeated. He's accepted his fate. He's like, well, I either eat my man or I die. And he's kind of, I think he's weighed it up and he's like, well, I've got no other choice. And he goes ahead and munches on his mate.
The biggest surprise for me in the film is that I didn't know that character. He's not really mentioned in Alive. He's not ever been really at the forefront of any of the books, because obviously he didn't survive. So for me, straight away, I was really intrigued. I was like, I don't recall this guy. You've got the famous names like Canessa and Prado and Coco and stuff, and Marcello. But I'd never heard that one. And I thought, I was like, is this a character they've put in to retell the story? But he was a real person. Yeah. And when I realised that, they're actually going to kill him, I thought, we've followed his story. He's narrating.
Yeah.
And it's a really weird. At first I thought, I don't know if I like that. But then I thought, actually, it's really effective. Yeah. Because you feel like you've lost someone.
Exactly that, yeah.
And it's an odd experience, and it's a weird way of doing a film, but after 24 hours, I really appreciated it more.
Yeah.
And when I watched it a second time, I could really feel his struggle and his loss, and I thought that's all down to that actor.
Yeah.
That actor's done phenomenal. And it don't help that he looks like a Spanish...
Adam Driver.
Adam Driver.
Yeah, I thought that as soon as I saw him, yeah.
I was like, Driver better watch out, because this guy's going to start taking his roles.
Yeah, yeah.
Because I'd say he's better looking.
I'd say.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Probably more charismatic. He was brilliant. I really, really liked him. And that doesn't take away from the others. I think the actor who played Nando was brilliant. Yeah. You know, at the start when he's playing rugby, he looks chonky.
He does, yeah.
Looks really chonky.
He's a stocked up fridge at the start.
Yeah. Well, they had a medical supervised weight loss program for the film.
Yeah.
And I thought that was, as much as I've always been a bit against it, and depending on the project and how often someone does it. So Dallas Buyers Club, I appreciate it because Matt McCon never does it. It was so rare. So for him to do it, I thought it was effective. It made sense. It's a wasting disease. And I think with this film, true story, a lot of the survivors are still alive. And I thought it worked. And seeing the gauntness of the actors towards the last third of the film, it's kind of shocking. Like, it's like, Jesus Christ.
Well, it certainly adds another layer of believability to it. Like, when you see them, like, whittling away, like you say, you see them at the start in only a small window of exposition when they're playing rugby, when they're all friends, when they're living their best life before the tragedy happens. And then as the film progresses, you see them getting slighter and slighter. And that's one of my biggest likes about it, is that sense of believability. I think it's a nod to director J.A Bayona and the amazing cast and everyone involved, the whole production team. But the way the film breathlessly draws you into the story and puts you amongst those stranded in the Andes is nothing short of incredible. Everything from the weight loss, like you say, the costumes, the hair and makeup, through to the decision to not sort of glamorize or over excessively portray the cannibalism for dramatic effect. It contributes to putting us, the audience, into the thick of the struggle. And like you say, when you're looking at actors on screen, like, gradually decrease in volume, you're just there and you're like, fuck. And it's not for a nothing psychological indie thriller like Bale's done. This is for a real story that people would have shedded pounds, stones, and through just not having enough sustenance.
Numa weighed 25 kilograms when he died.
Bloody hell. I don't mean to bring poo into the conversation again, but I'm pretty sure I've shat that.
You might. I mean, I wouldn't be surprised, mate.
Yeah.
I've seen you chow down on some lukewarm chili con carne in a jacket spud at a questionable pub.
Yeah, I regret that.
You should.
To this day.
You should.
To this day. What else did you like about the film?
Use of deep focus, or AKA depth of field.
It
so
is.
it's one of my favourite film techniques. And I've been plaguing you with messages lately on films I'm watching, haven't I? When the shot appears, I've been showing it to you.
Yeah.
It's been used in Citizen Kane, Mank, Django, Rear Window, Jaws. It's a wonderful bit of trickery where you have a foreground character in focus and a background character in focus. So it gives like a blurred split middle.
Yes.
It's really odd. Puts you in a weird situation. It's great for claustrophobic scenes as well. And in a film when you need to see facial expressions of an ensemble cast rather than a soloist, it really works. But you know, midway through the film, and this actually happened, the fuselage gets hit by an avalanche. And they're underground. They're stuck under the snow for 4 days, which is they all say, all the survivors say, the most horrific part, most horrific.
Yeah.
And that deep focus shot in the fuselage, just it's claustrophobic. It really works because you'll have Numa in the foreground, all of his expression completely visible, and you'll see the characters in the background, all their expressions completely visible. It's a brilliant technical marvel in film. It's one of my favourites, and I've been seeing it more lately than I have. I don't know if it's because I've increased my film watching.
Yeah.
But you'd catch it in Goodfellas once in a blue moon, or say a bit in Jaws. But I'm seeing it in so much now, so it's getting popular again, or maybe technology's made it an easier shot.
Yeah.
But it worked brilliant in this film. And now I've said it, if you watch it again, you won't be able to unsee it.
Yeah.
Once you see it, it's a shot that you'll always recognise. Deep focus.
It's a great way to put you as an audience member like amongst what's happening, isn't it? Because it feels like the way it's you've got the character right at the forefront, and then you've got the other characters in the back. It's like you're almost next to the guy in the forefront.
Yeah.
You're like living it with him. And that, for most of this film, I'm an anxious man. This film, that scene, so many of the scenes, my heart was going nuts. And the deep focus, the filmmaking choices, the direction, the acting, all of it just puts you right there, and it rocked my fucking socks off.
Yeah. I don't know if it was Parada or Canessa that said this, but they said you were so cold that you would try and get the breath of someone on your face to warm you up. And he said, can you imagine how small that makes you feel? To get heat that way from someone's breath.
Especially breath after man meat.
Yeah.
Eat.
Yeah, because I think I'm quite sure that there's scientific proof for people who were cannibals, like tribal cannibals, for over a long period of time. They go mad. There's toxins or something within human flesh that we can't eat, and it makes you go mad. It makes you smell.
Oh,
yeah. I would hate to have had a dump after. Like that's worse, because that poo only exists. That fecal matter only exists because you ate that person over there, and it's like, how do you tie that shit together? That's too much.
That fecal matter is your friend, mate.
Oh.
So you're sitting there, might be a nice poo, it might be a struggle of a poo, but you might be sitting there and catch a whiff of your good dear friend who's fallen victim to the Andes and the tragedy, and you've eaten him, and now you're recycling him, and you can smell him
back into the earth. I like their spin on it.
Yeah, if you stop and actually think about it, like I know we're having a little bit of a laugh, and a film like this, you kind of have to try and have a laugh because it's fucking bleak. It's hard work, yeah. But yeah, when you really think about it, like after this film finished, like I had to put on some trash on like Impractical Jokers or just a episode of Friends that I've seen hundreds of times. I needed background laughter. I needed fake canned laughter just to feel okay because, like I said, it fucking rocked me.
Do you know what I did?
What?
I went and tried to read first-hand accounts of what humans taste like.
Of course you did.
I've got some if you want to hear them.
Of course I do.
German cannibal Armin Maiwes insisted human flesh tastes like pork, but a little bit more stronger, a bit bitter. While Japanese cannibal Issei Sagawa described it as tender and soft like tuna. Sagawa, who murdered a Dutch woman named Renee Hartevelt in 1981, said it had melted in his mouth like raw tuna at a sushi restaurant. The survivors of the 1972 Andes plane crash were forced to eat their fellow passengers to survive, but insist their accounts that the frozen flesh was flavourless. I'm leaning more towards their account, yeah, but it was freezing cold.
Yeah, they're eating people popsicles. They're not seasoning flesh with some sage and onion, a bit of rosemary.
Yeah,
they're not got a side of patatas.
Yeah, it's not Mads Mikkelsen.
No.
It's not Mads Mikkelsen chopping up some lungs and putting pepper on there and stuff. And I think with the right spices and herbs, you can make anything taste good.
Well, of course you can.
Anything. But
anything with a side of potatoes is improved as well.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I don't know if I agree with the Japanese guy, Sagawa, saying it tastes like tuna in a fish restaurant.
I mean, I will hopefully never know.
That seems a bit rough.
It's morbid, isn't it?
Nando Prado recalled, this is what he said, when I ate my first piece, it had no taste. I forced myself to swallow without guilt. I was eating to live. Oof.
It's grim.
It is grim.
Any more likes for me?
Yeah, so I've mentioned it before, but a rarity for me, as I've only ever appreciated it really in Dallas Buyers Club, but the thinning of the actors and the mixture with makeup and costume was amazing and really sheds light on what the real survivors went through. Like, even to the point where like concussion causes the eyes to have black and red in them and blue.
Yeah.
And when they've been in exposed temperatures, like what their eyes do and stuff, it's a really layered film about what the body's going through, the black piss, the urine being black because their body's eating its muscle because it's got through the fat and stuff. Like, so you can really appreciate the physical toll it took on them.
Yeah.
Last Like, I thought it was clever that our lead and narrator Numa dies. Because we lived with him for most of the film, and he's taken from us. So it's like we ourselves have lost someone during the movie.
Yeah.
He's also the least famous of the crew, based on past renditions, which I already mentioned.
I think that's clever to do it from the perspective of someone that maybe hasn't had the same attention through the other depictions or spoken about as much through documentaries, because it kind of serves as a remembrance to him. He's now got a voice as well amongst everyone else, amongst the survivors. He's getting a little bit more of a platform, and if they've been speaking with the survivors to get truer accounts of what's happened, like maybe that's a result of him being a really liked and appreciated member of them. So yeah, I agree with you there.
Well, that's why Bayona, that's why he had the sort of walking memorial throughout the film. At first I was like, I don't know if I like that. Where it would come up with so you'd see the shot of a body, they'd move out the fuselage, and it'd come up with the name and the age. But he said this film's an opportunity for the victims, the people that didn't make it, to have their story told. So because of first-hand accounts, they could say, we removed Numa's body out here, and they can tell you when it happened in the film during the events. So it was like an honouring, and I actually thought after, like, again, it took me 24 hours to take a lot in with this movie, to sort of see how I felt about it, and I thought it was nicely done, tastefully done.
Yes, it's respectful. And it pays homage to those people, and I think even if it is just a bookmark within the film, you just see it in written text that every single one of them's remembered, every single one of them gets a nod, and I think that's a touch of class. It's sensitive, it's smart, and I appreciated it.
Have you seen any of the real photos?
Only at the end of the film,
Yes.
when the credits are rolling, they show you actual photos of the before, during, and after. Yeah,
I mean, the photos are haunting, but it really added to the loss of Numa when you see him in the photos and he's covering his head and he doesn't really want to be seen. I think he's got a lot of shame in him. He knows he's dying because he even though he does eat a bit, he doesn't eat like the others.
yeah.
So it accelerates his death.
Yes,
He dies a lot quicker, and I don't think he ever wanted to come off that mountain. But then when you see the real photos of some guy smiling, you know, they're still positive, they're still up. And you see this guy in the middle of the photos, and you're like, he's dead in about a week. You're looking at a photo, and he's going to die in a week in real life.
Yeah.
And the way they interlace that with, like, the recreation of the photos is insane.
Yeah, it's mad.
Like the rib cage next to a guy, that photo exists. It's a real one. You can go and look at it.
Yeah, and that ties into my biggest like about it is that it's just a fucking feat of filmmaking. Society of the Snow is a perfect balance between spectacle and sensitive storytelling. The way this tough-to-tackle true story is told is engaging, emotional, and fuck me, is it impactful. It's a superbly handled film that is excellently directed and acted, and everyone involved with this project deserves huge recognition for making a film that it manages to be both breathtakingly beautiful and heartbreakingly bleak. I don't know about you, but I think it's a rare and beautiful thing when a film like this can be respectful to those who lived and died in the nightmare portrayed, as well as being educational and entertaining to an audience.
That's a lot.
Yeah, and it does so much. And like your likes, like there's so much thought and sensitivity and due diligence that's gone into the making of this film, from the direction, from the acting, from the hair and makeup, from the costume, from the nutritionists and the weight loss, just everything about it. Everyone's rowing in the same direction, and you get that. That's why it's nominated for an Oscar, and I would be very surprised if it doesn't win Best Foreign Picture, because everything about this is just a feat of filmmaking in my eyes. My last like will bleed into my first dislike, so if you allow me a little bit of time, I'll double dose this dog.
I'll permit it.
Thank you. It's the crash scene. Terrible thing to say I liked about it. But the fucking mid-flight scene is one of the most haunting and impactful scenes I've ever seen in my life. And never have I ever felt more part of an on-screen tragedy than I did in that scene. And the look and feel of that entire sequence is one that will stay with me for a very long time.
I'll never fly again, mate.
I
haven't flown for 6 years. This has sealed it.
I have no idea how this scene was done, but it felt like a crash simulator rather than a scene on my television screen. It's superbly shocking. And if you haven't seen this film, I implore you to watch it. It's first and foremost a great film, but from a filmmaking perspective, and this is someone who knows very little about filmmaking, only through my passion of film do I have a basic understanding. I'm sitting there going, how the fuck they did that? Like, it happens, and it's a very short sequence, and I'm sitting there and going, am I going to be sick? Do I need to call an ambulance? Do I need to pause this? Do I need to seek help? Because it's so shocking.
Oh, I'd love to have seen that in the cinema.
Oh, man.
It's horrific, but I've got a weird fascination fear with it. But to see it in the cinema, that must have been chilling.
But it's the speed in which it happens. You see people fly out the back. You see people get pushed forward, impaled, legs break, ankles break. Like, it happens so quickly, and it's so shocking that it rocked. Like I've said in this episode already, this film fucking rocked me. And that bleeds into one of my dislikes. It's that same fucking crash scene for those reasons. Despite it being an absolute masterpiece of filmmaking, it made me feel physically sick. The speed in which it happens, the instant chaos it causes, and the way you see every inch of the tragedy unfold in front of your eyes, it made me feel panicked, anxious, and really uncomfortable. I found myself, since I've watched it twice in the space of a week, I'll be doing random things, washing up, doing things around the house, and I think of that scene, and I'm like, why are you doing that? Leave that scene alone. But that's how impactful it was.
Yeah.
And that's a sign of good filmmaking.
I've been non-stop reading up on it again, and I did this years ago. And I'm back there again watching interviews of them after they got out and stuff, because I'm again fascinated with it. It's got high rewatchability. It's a film I definitely would be excited to watch again because of the shock.
Yeah.
Because shock's like horror, it does something for you. It's like a romance in a film. There's things that it sort of excites you. Yeah. And it's shocking, but it's got rewatchability in my mind.
Yeah. So it's fed your appetite for this.
It has. It's satiated me.
Do you have anything you didn't like about the film?
Yeah, I've got some dislikes.
Go on, land them on me.
I wouldn't say, I don't know if they're, relevant to the film itself. So, like Frank Marshall's 1993 Alive, I think the film could be guilty of holding back on the process it takes to butcher a human and eat them. So I thought going into this one, I didn't think it would mollycoddle that subject as much as, say, Alive did. Like, I think we needed one scene where you saw the process horrifically, so the audience think about that every time the characters eat for the rest of the film. So I think in Alive, and similar to this, everything's sort of almost off to the side when it happens.
Do you think that's a simple case of trying to be, like you say, there's still people alive from this? Do you think that's just a simple sign of respect? Or do you think it's probably thinking to a mass audience might not want to see that? I see where you're coming from. It would, on a film that's got so many layers of believability, if you had a 10-20 second shocking scene of that, that's going to put you even closer to imagining it, isn't it?
I just think it needs, if we're going to see the close-up of ankles breaking, snapping, people dying of, wasting and stuff, I just think, I know I'm only asking for one. I'm not saying I want a continuous butchery throughout the film.
You don't want a 45 butcher sesh.
No.
You're not a monster.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I just think in instances we should see something we recognise as a human body being butchered. And I know you see a bit with the Stalch brothers lifting an arm, but you don't see the axe hacking.
Yeah.
I just think and let's say it's the pilot, you should shock your audience once into, like Canessa said, this is light. It's excellent. It really does. It's the closest to retelling of what actually happened to us than any other film's ever done before.
Yeah.
I think, like him saying it's light, I think you should have seen one scene, because this actually happened. It's not just from a morbid mind.
Yes, of course.
That just wants to make a horror flick. I just think you should have seen maybe an arm come off or something.
You could have even I tend to agree with you, and I hadn't really thought about it until you brought it up just then. But you could have even have one of the Strouch, if that's how you pronounce it, cousins, looking at the body.
That's enough,
And then them what bit am I chopping first? And them making that decision, lifting an arm or something. And then you don't have to see the body gratuitously get chopped up. You could just see his reaction, and you see the camera on his face of doing it. And these lads acting in this, I think they've got enough about them that could have done a scene like that justice. Yeah.
It almost does it. Like you do see very, very slightly, very quickly when Numa's looking at the Strouch brothers butcher someone, he turns away, and it's only in the bottom of the screen you do see what looks like a severed arm. I just think they should have showed you once what the physical toll it takes on to do that to someone.
An amuse-bouche, if you will.
Yeah. An amuse-bouche.
Yeah.
On entree. And we don't have to see the mains later.
No, we don't need to see the mains.
Not at all.
No. We don't want to see that.
But that's only a very slight, it doesn't take away from the film, but I thought finally a film that's not gonna mollycoddle.
Yeah, it's not gonna hold its punches. Yeah.
And you're right, though. There's families from people that didn't come back. They don't want to see that. And that's why it's a diet dislike. For me, being selfish to want to see it more visceral.
Yes.
For the purpose of shock.
Of course, yeah.
And how it was, but then again, if some poor bastard wants to go and watch this film and their family member was there and died there, they don't want to see it. So it makes sense.
Yeah, it's a valid one though, I'd say.
Yeah, another dislike when Numa finds remnants of the plane and his friend Gaston's body, who you see in the exposition. Yeah. Really good actor, by the way. Really natural, fun guy. Wants a drink and a laugh. Yeah. I took to him. He looked like a bit of a Gosling. I don't believe he would have been able to bend him so easily for a hug. Or that his ear would have been bendy like it wasn't frozen. I mean, we're talking -30. The guy wasn't found until 4 or 5 days after the crash. I think he would be static, totally solid.
A people popsicle.
A people popsicle.
Yeah.
He would be frozen solid.
Yeah.
The only reason I suspect this, it'd be great if we had doctors that listen to this show, could phone up and confirm. I don't know what temperature a human body freezes, but I shouldn't think it's much less than -5 or 6 if it's left overnight over 4 days.
It's -7.
Wicked. Are you serial?
Completely.
Are you serial?
I have no idea.
My thinking on this, you may not know this, but have you ever heard of the Winter War? It was when Russia invaded Finland in World War II.
I don't think so.
So the Finnish, outnumbered, outgunned, absolutely fucked the Russians. They had ski troops and they were annihilating them. And the psychological warfare they used on the Russians were, if a body a Russian body was left overnight in minus 30 again, same temperature as the Andes, it froze solid. The Finnish would stand them up in all of their poses, broke at how they froze to fuck with the Russian soldiers.
Fuck me.
Frozen solid. So you could stand them up. No, nothing would bend. Nothing. It would be a solid popsicle man. So my thinking is Gaston wouldn't have been able to just bend from the waist up, but it's when he grabs his head, his ear moves. And I thought that dog would be gone, frozen gone.
Yeah.
This is very tiny, but I could be wrong.
Yeah.
I could be wrong.
I mean...
Maybe the sun thaws them out in the day.
Maybe.
I don't know. But I thought that might accelerate the decomposition.
Okay.
I mean, it's a bit dark.
It is, but hey, like I've said before on this podcast, I'm here for the niche negatives.
Yeah.
Like, it doesn't have to be about the film itself. If you've noticed a scene and you sniff that the science is not correct, I'm there. I'm there in your camp going, make it better.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Someone should look more into the Storch cousins' history.
Okay.
These two, and the actors that play these two in the film, I thought were excellent.
Yeah.
They got 1,000-yard stare, these two. One's like the realist. He's like, I don't see us getting out of here. And he's ready to do what's necessary.
Yeah.
They're a brilliant little duo. And they're the real heroes of this story. They're the ones who took guilt off the table for everyone else because they butchered the bodies away from them so they didn't know who they were eating.
The Strauch stepped up.
They were immense.
Someone had to.
And I think one of them also came up with the solar water thing.
Yeah.
Melting water on a bit of aluminum to drip into a bottle. How does a 21, 22-year-old, maybe even 18, I don't know how old they were, they're all very young. How do them two, what minerals is it in them that made it possible for them to butcher a body when they'd never done it in their entire life?
It's something that I thought about throughout the film. I put myself in the position. The film does a very good job of putting you in the position of the people involved. And I was just like, I thought the same. How that the remarkable intelligence and ingenuity that these people have come up with amidst a crisis to enhance their survival chances. I was like, I'd be fucking useless.
Who would you be, do you think?
I'd have been the guy that
Flew out the back.
Yeah, no, I'd been the first name that comes up in memoriam. Adam John died on the toilet before getting on the plane. I'd have been that guy. Like,
man shitting out 25 kilogram chili con carne jacket potato.
Was meant to be on the flight. This is his story.
Yeah.
No, I don't think I would have. Yeah, I wouldn't do well.
It's not. I wouldn't say it's a genuine. It's not a dislike. I just thought, what's the background of these guys? How do you, unless hunger is the driving force?
Well, it's the classic fight or flight. I think it speaks to your character. And one person might look at that and go, wow, these Strout guys have got a dark past that they could do it. Another person would look at it and go, fucking fair play. Someone had to do what they did. And if no one did, they'd all be dead.
I was proud of them. I actually felt proud of them for being that. But how about when they, when they get buried in the avalanche and now they've been 4 days under there and they haven't eaten again. So everyone's starving again. But the bodies are fresher and the bodies are there. They know who they are. And Knesset says, are you not going to do anything? And they don't say anything because that's how wonderful these men were, that they could do it when they knew it wasn't affecting people's minds, but they couldn't do it when they knew. These men are like 15 years younger than, say, I am now.
Yeah.
And they were making bigger decisions than either of our daddies.
Yeah.
I don't know if that comes from their upbringing stuff. They just, the decisions they made were amazing.
Yeah.
Hat is dirt, by the way. You know when they have to eat and they're in the fuselage because they've been avalanched. I know there was an account where they said all of a sudden the meat wasn't just frozen protein that I could swallow. It was greasy.
Yeah.
From the human fat, it was warmish.
Oh.
Like it's a different. You got used to eating it one way, frozen fish finger.
Yeah.
And now someone's giving you beef tartare.
Lukewarm man meat.
Fucking hell. Yeah. That's my dislikes.
Yeah. Minor little details, but it's worth sharing them.
Yeah, man.
Yeah, well, mine are less minor. This next one is just, I didn't like the fact that this is one of the scariest films I've ever fucking seen.
Oh.
The fact that this has actually happened and the fact that it could happen to anyone is fucking terrifying. This movie is claustrophobic, tragic, bleak, grim, troubling, gut-wrenching, disturbing, sickening, and a real slog to get through. Whilst it is successful in everything it sets out to do, this is a tough watch that brings the audience as close to the peril as possible. Now, if you're of a nervous disposition, have a weak stomach, or are easily upset, maybe avoid Society of the Snow. Is it a good film? Absolutely. Do I ever want to watch it again? Absolutely not.
Really?
I've seen it twice, and it, mate, honestly, like, it's worth sharing with the group without going into too much detail. I've got a heightened sense of panic and anxiety at the moment. This film couldn't have come at a worse time watching it. And that is the mark of a good film, because the film's meant to be that. You're not meant to be watching a film like this and having a laugh a minute. You're not meant to be sitting there. It is entertaining. It's fascinating, the how humanity can survive against such a struggle, like all of these things. But man, it still sits with me now. Like, I find myself, like I said earlier, I go to bed, I'm thinking about it. Like, I wake up, I'm thinking about it.
It's because it's fascinating, I think.
Yeah, and it's like I said in my likes, it's superbly made. Everything about it is fantastic. But it did rock, again, it did rock the shit out of me.
Yeah.
It really did. And my final dislike was a specific scene again. It's that buried alive scene. You mentioned it earlier, another moment within the film that supports my thesis that this is a fucking terrifying horror film. There's a moment with the film where the survivors are residing in the plane wreck, and all of a sudden they become buried under an onslaught of snow, and they have to fight for their lives to get out. And the way this scene in particular is shot and how it transports you to be amongst those suffocating in snow unlocked a new fear within me that I didn't know I had. I went into this one with no phobia of flight nor fear of confined spaces. I came out of it as a claustrophobic aerophobe. And that's the power of the film. Like, I'm scared of a lot of things. I have fears over a lot of things. Flying's not being one of them. Being in a confined space isn't. But now I can add them to the ever-growing list, because the thought of this film, and it's the power of the film that it makes you believe it so much that, it just completely rocked me.
You got to remember, though, it is 1972, and it was a very underpowered Fairchild plane. It is different now. I'm telling you this, like, you need to hear it. I need to tell myself that.
Yeah.
I wouldn't even believe it. It's because it comes from an unreliable source.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I've got some questions.
Yeah.
You find yourself as a survivor of a plane crash. Which 4 actors would you like to be stranded with, and why?
God. Oh.
If you need some time to think, I can give you mine.
Yeah.
Christian Bale, because weight loss is not a new thing to him. He can handle not eating food for a while. That's fine. Tom Hanks, experience with Castaway, just a good dude to keep spirits up. Idris Elba, big and strong. Just big.
It's always with the Idris Elba.
Big and strong, and I just want to be stranded with Idris Elba. I don't know why. And Melissa McCarthy.
Okay. Why? Why Melissa McCarthy?
Come on.
What, you eat her?
Come on.
For food?
Come on. I don't want to be liable. I don't want to say anything controversial, because that's not like me, but you know why I want her on that plane.
Oh, you want her there to make you laugh. Yeah. Okay, I get that.
While I laugh at the joy of fucking consuming her.
You'd eat that, would you?
No.
Would you?
Yeah.
Okay. I think I'd go Matt Damon.
Potatoes.
Man needs saving.
Yep.
Always.
And he always gets
saved.
Yeah.
He always gets saved. So
great shout.
That's why I'd want him there. And I'd go for married couple Susan Sarandon and Tim Robbins. Are they still
just
married?
because you want to, I don't know, but just because you want to feel love in a time of crisis?
I just want to see if they actually love each other. Because I think they're one of the few celebrity couples that did manage to move beyond their high school years. You know, like they have a relationship apparently that stood the test of time. I'm going to sound like a twat if they've broken up, but I'm quite sure they are together. And I want to see if it's the real deal.
So in a moment of pure terror and trauma and chaos and crisis, you're there with a imaginary pad and paper analysing their marriage.
Yeah.
You got to keep busy somehow, haven't you?
You asked for 4, didn't you? So I'm going to bring Morgan Freeman along as well to narrate everything that's happening.
Well, of course.
Yeah.
Of course.
Yeah.
You know, that's a given. It's important to document these things, isn't it? And
that is a
man to
given.
do it. Yeah.
It is a given.
Yeah. You and I are plane wrecked. I die, but before I do, I say, Harold, place me pondy mouth and digest thee to survive. What part of me are you eating first, and why?
Oh, can't go for the arse. You've had too much trouble down there.
Yep. That's a fact, yep.
I'm not a dick man anyway, and I think it's too cartilagey to
I love that
enjoy.
that you're eliminating bumhole and penis. Like that's not a default given.
I didn't say bum hole. If there's a beautiful arse cheek, why am I going to go straight for the Sphinx?
Yeah, but I go straight from back to leg, so I basically don't have a bum. So you're not missing out much there.
I would say in a thigh, but the issue with that is I couldn't actually cut that because I'd be thinking of my own inner fire and how sensitive it is.
Yeah, but I'm dead, and I said, place me, pondy mouth.
Mm,
I said to you, my last words, eat me.
I wonder what an ear tastes like. I always thought bacon because of the shape, but
Waxy.
I don't think bacon ear is a real thing. And it might be a bit cartilagey.
I don't think bacon ear is a real thing, like it's a well-known myth.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know. I'd take your nose because I reckon you'd look like Voldemort as fuck if I took your nose.
And it'd be a great thing for Morgan Freeman to commentate on.
As he cut off his nose,
Yeah.
he did not do it to spite his face.
Hello.
7.
Yeah. Final question. What are your top 3 survival films?
Put me a bit on the spot, but The Martian's up there. I loved it. I loved the story.
Wish I'd thought of that.
The Martian's great. I think that's a real good one. If I'm talking from my childhood, Lord of the Flies was in there. Might not be anymore.
Ooh.
Really liked the 2015 film Everest. Enjoyed it because it's true story again.
I actually haven't seen that.
It's good.
Okay.
It's really good.
Jake Gyllenhaal?
Jake Gyllenhaal's in it.
Yeah.
Yeah, he plays Scott Parker.
Josh Brolin?
Josh Brolin's in it. He plays one of the survivors. I can't remember. Anyway, Everest is it does very similar for that tragedy that happened in the 1996 Mount Everest tragedy,
Okay.
as this film does for Alive. Maybe Deliverance or something. But again, it's been years. I know you're going to say Into the Wild, but that was not one of mine.
I actually haven't.
I might go
I
The
actually
Edge.
haven't.
I'm going to go The Edge.
Okay.
With Anthony Hopkins and Baldwin,
Yeah.
the 1997 film. Do you remember it?
I haven't seen it.
Little
I know
Cessna
of the
crash
film.
in Alaska.
Mm.
Yeah, it's probably dog shit now, but I'm going to go with that. Yeah.
I'd go Rescue Dawn
Oh, good film.
with Christian Bale, directed by Werner Herzog, I think.
Yeah, Van Herzog, yeah.
Castaway, it's just a classic.
Yeah.
It's just a warming classic.
That's a terrifying plane crash.
Yeah, fuck yeah.
Fucking hell.
And Unbroken. I don't know if you've seen that. It stars Jack O'Connell, directed by Angelina Jolie.
Lost at Sea.
Yeah, he was an Olympian, and he gets lost at sea, and they get I think they get captured by.
Was it a plane crash?
Yeah, I think so, and I think they get held captive by some soldiers somewhere. I can't remember, but I remember loving the film. Jack O'Connell's amazing in it.
Wicked.
What would you rate Society of the Snow out of 10?
So on first watch, being absolutely enamoured with the story anyway, and this retelling being in the native language, it was always going to be high for me.
Yeah,
and I was
course.
sitting at 9, and then after recalling and watching more interviews and reading about how Parada and Canessa believe it to be a masterpiece and the best retelling of their struggle, I'd have to say 10.
Okay.
Because if the survivors give it a big thumbs up, it's so hard to think anything else.
Yeah.
In my mind.
Yeah.
But I was sitting at 9, but then I don't know. It takes time, this film. Once you watch it, give yourself 48 hours, 24 hours, and if you're still thinking about it, like you said, when you're washing up, when you're washing your balls, when you're doing anything, if you're still thinking about it, it's because it's left a mark.
Exactly that, and that's the joy of a powerful film. I've gone a little less, and I've gone 8.5. I thought everything about it was amazing, but it did rock me. And I may be a bit dramatic when I say I never want to see it again. I may revisit it. My partner hasn't seen it. I think she'd be interested in watching it, but I'd have to give it a while before I went back in, because it's harrowing, isn't it? It is a slog, but it's superbly handled and really, really worth your time.
It makes you quite proud of how humans can be.
Yeah.
Pretty amazing feat, what they achieved. Oh, yeah, incredible.
That gives Society of the Snow a total score of 18.5 out of 20. If you like your survival films to be stunning to look at but a stone-cold struggle to stomach, or if you've ever wanted to watch some unfortunate rugby boys fight fierce frost and the finality of becoming fast friend food, then Society of the Snow could be a film for you. Society of the Snow is available to stream on Netflix. Consider watching this one if you enjoyed Arctic, Alive and Survive. Should we play a game?
Give it a name, give it a name, give it a name now. We birth a plot and then make a trailer. What the plot?
Action! I won't change my mind, feel the same
You finished?
about you.
Okay.
Look at you, turncoat. Put a pillow under your Grinch lip.
Okay, well, here's my plot. Terrorists seize the London Comic Con and demand that the UK-US release all prisoners held at Guantanamo Bay. A group of nerd friends, all dressed as movie heroes, so like Freddy Krueger, Hello Kitty, E.T., Batman, whatever you want, a mixture of whatever they like being. Could be bad guys, could be good guys. So it's a Comic-Con in London. They're a bunch of nerds. Could be guys and girls, could be a group of office people who've got a love for superheroes or whatever. They're at Comic-Con and the terrorists take over the building. There's a guy bystander who's dressed as Superman. He dies in the first 5 minutes because he is not Superman and he tries to be. He's a fat middle-aged guy called Kyle and works in accounting. And he's got a Superman outfit on and he goes, ah, and they just mow him down. This is an 18-rated action comedy in my mind.
So you've got people there that are dressed up as superheroes that may have superhero complexes. Like
yes.
they're so into this genre of entertainment that they go to places to dress up as their favourite heroes and be amongst people that do the same thing.
Yeah, pure Comic-Con, just like what you see at the start of, is it Paul, the one with the alien?
Yeah.
Even I've been to them, I love them. I dressed up as Sloth from the Goonies and my mate went as Chunk, you know.
Yeah.
It's fun. You go there, but some people are so into it. 4 nerds are at this thing and real terrorists take over the building and their demands are release all the prisoners at Guantanamo Bay. There's some people with the hero complex that get mowed down within seconds. But so our 4 nerds, this little group, this little nucleus of characters who actually have got brain cells between them, start to devise a plan to beat/escape from the terrorists. I see an action comedy. I see it being violent, 18 rated. Similar, I suppose you could say, to how Kick-Ass was dropped.
Yeah.
Kick-Ass as in the main guy being very average, below average at any sort of superhero stuff. None of that amazing fighting. They are not them peoples.
Yeah.
It's a serious subject. It's not. It's a comedy. It's a full-blown comedy. It's like Die Hard but funny with nerds.
Yeah.
Something a little light after something so fierce as Society of the Snow.
We need to medicate that somehow, don't we?
We do.
And this, I mean, at its core, it's a serious subject matter with terrorists taking over somewhere. But I think it's definitely deep-rooted in dark comedy. It's funny you say Kick-Ass because I did have when you was giving this story along, I was thinking as well in the same vein of Kingsman. It's comic.
Yes.
It's comedic. It's got great action. And I think it's something like this. You could have great action alongside some really good comedy moments. With the casting, it would be so easy to just get 4 dweeby white dudes to just be like your generic Comic-Con stereotypes.
I think it should be superstars, but they play dweebs.
Well, I think in this day and age, like the whole like nerdism is sort of got a whole different group of people. You see a lot of big people that are into their Marvel, but in peak physical condition. They're self-proclaimed nerds and geeks, but they're actually like fine specimen of people. They really look after themselves. I think with the MCU and that how popular that's become, I think it's more popular also to be a bit of a geek and a bit of a nerd.
Yeah.
So I think I'd have like the 4 guys playing these people that sort of stand up to the occasion. These people need saving and they step up to the plate. Is it that sort of vibe?
Outside of Comic-Con, they could all be work colleagues. I think there's definitely a woman in the mix as well. There's a girl involved in the group, and it's a survival situation. They do have to still escape. I suppose what's happening around them as well is funny. Like even the police using CCTV are like that terrorist there near the Hulk. And there's someone dressed as the Hulk tied up. It would be really funny. The words, the way that it's like they've killed Superman.
yeah, those bastards.
It would naturally
Superman,
happen.
Yeah.
You couldn't avoid it because you wouldn't know the names or the IDs yet. Because thousands of people go to Comic-Cons. I think there could be a group of office people that all have a love for cosplay. They could be old schoolmates. I thought older. I not old. I thought like actors in their late 20s, 30s, and I honestly think you could pick 4 actors random and they'd all be good. Like you could go Sharon Stone, anyone, because you put four people together. The idea is that one of them is a cat person and they don't have a partner. Loneliness plays probably a big part in it, or one of them is married with kids, but you can't let go of the cosplay. That's the easy part, I think.
So I see this as, like you say, it's a straight up comedy action. I think the characters, for me, it'd be interesting to flip it, and it'd be easy to cast like so it's set in London. It would be easy to have 4 Brits playing the roles of dweeby like Brits or whatever.
People travel the world for Comic-Con.
Exactly. Easily, you could easily throw a Simon Pegg, Nick Frost caliber type person in there, but I'm going to flip it. And I'm going to have like 4 actors that want to come to the London Comic-Con maybe because they were obsessed with X-Men back in the day, and Patrick Stewart is there to sign stuff. So it's a huge event for these guys to come over here and see Patrick Stewart, be part of the Comic-Con. They all get to dress up as X-Men, whoever they want to be.
So they're going as X-Men.
Yeah,
right.
I mean, it doesn't matter. And in their everyday life, you could have one that's like a fitness instructor. You could have one that's an athlete. You could have one that owns a music store. What they do in their spare time isn't really important, but we spoke about in doing the episode on Society of the Snow, it's about ordinary people doing extraordinary things. So I'd have these cast of 4 people as the nucleus. They'd be your very normal, everyday, standard person. Maybe a couple of them I've got in peak physical condition so they can kick some ass if they need be. So I see directing this film, Matthew Vaughn. He's responsible for Kick-Ass, he's responsible for Kingsman, and he's done a lot of writing for some really popular action and comedy films. This is his bread and butter as far as I'm concerned. And I see it as like there's no one lead. I see the group of 4 in this, and I'd have Keke Palmer from Us. She's got that great energy, and while her character in Us, Nope. Sorry, she was in Nope.
Yeah.
Keke Palmer from Nope. She's got a great energy. Her character in Nope was jarring, but I think she'd be quite good as like a geeky, high energy person that's super excited to be there. I'd have Brian Tyree Henry, who's a big fan
Atlanta
from Bullet Train. I think he's hilarious. He was in Causeway, so he can show that he's got some dramatic chops as well. It's a very likeable on-screen presence.
And
I'd
funny.
have him in there, yeah. I'd have Michael B. Jordan as well. It's a little on the nose because he's in Black Panther, but he's a peak specimen. He's got loads of charisma. It subverts that geeky role where you've got sort of like a sex symbol.
He should be the scared one.
Yeah, absolute coward.
Yeah.
Like, he's built like a tank, but he really doesn't want to fight. And they're like, mate, you spend your life in the gym. Like, go and kick some ass. You train for it. Do it. I'd like to see him in that. And another one is a British actor. I don't know if you know him. Archie Madueke.
No.
He's in Saltburn. He's in C. He's in Gran Turismo. He seems to be popping up in a lot of things. He's got this great sort of physical appearance. He's like tall and lean, and I just think he's got an exciting future ahead of him. So he could maybe be the sort of friend that they've met online who's the Brit, and the rest of them all know each other in the States, and he's almost like a tour guide, loves what they love, and they meat on a group forum or whatever. So I'd have those. That's 4
a good idea. Maybe they online game together.
Yeah, and they're getting the band together, and they have to they either through necessity or just decide to like take on these terrorists. And at the core as well, they would be like, what would the X-Men do? Like, and part of their thing would be like, we need to save Professor X. So they have Professor X is at this Comic-Con, and maybe because he's a well-known individual, he's someone that the terrorists have got under.
Well, it's actually Patrick Stewart.
Yeah, it is Patrick Stewart.
I reckon he should be a prick. I reckon they save him, and he's an ungrateful, racist. Yeah, and he plays it as a funny part.
Yeah, and that would be hilarious. A little bit of meta in there. They love that nowadays. So yeah, I'd see Matthew Vaughn directing this one. You'd have Keke Palmer, Brian Tyree Henry, Michael B. Jordan, Archie Madueke in an action/comedy, and I'd call the film Not All Heroes Wear Capes.
You should kill yourself.
Why?
Comic-Con! And I just love the fact that we're all coming together now as one big giant community.
Everyone can just be themselves and be positive, and it's just a little bit of happiness.
It's nice to be around everyone that likes the same stuff as us.
Can't wait. I just can't wait to come back.
Absolutely comes down, and you will not regret it.
Not all heroes wear capes are coming soon.